some of the most iconic villains in all of Star Wars can be found in Knights of the Old Republic. Favorite video game of myself, the Brothers Kryn, who we're talking with today, and so many other Star Wars fans. Just scroll through YouTube, search Darth Revan, search Darth Treya, search Darth Malak, Darth Nihilus. Do a quick YouTube search on any of those names and you will find yourself endlessly scrolling, because there are so many content creators that are producing content about these villains, probably more than villains that have been produced by Star Wars in the last 10 years. But today we're going to discuss the villains of these two video games. And I would like to start at the top with KOTOR 1. Now, I'll leave this up to you. Do you consider Saul Kareth someone worthy of lumping into this group of villains?
Sure. Saul Kareth is an interesting villain.
I mean, what do you think of him? Because I feel like he was really big for Karth's character now and for the story. But what were you going to say?
Well, he started off as a mentor to Karth, and then is the one who murdered his wife, and also kind of helped steal away the man's son. So, and he's the character who has a one last fuck you, decided that he would tell him who Revan was. And the scene has a lot more gravitas if you're playing female Revan, because that's, Karth's lover. And so it's, he got with the other murderer of his wife. And Kareth does it just as a fuck you, and laughs at him about it. Like, Kareth truly had no regard or care for Karth. Like, he's a bit of an inversion of Han Solo, and also of a character like Lando Calrissian, and also Long John Silver from Treasure Island, who starts off as this mentor, but goes on to become his rogue. And you just have this really fascinating rivalry that's born from it. I would suppose that there might be some jealousy mixed in there, because Karth had a wife and son, and Kareth had nothing. So Kareth, steals away the man's son and turns him to the dark side, or at least puts him in a location where he'll turn, and turns him against his father. Can there be a more envious, petty act than that? On top of which, he bombards a lot of planets. And he's utterly gutless because, he's confronted by Malak and refuses to, take the Force choke like a man, and instead cracks and sacrifices billions of lives. So, yeah. He belongs on the list, but he's utter scum.
He's horrible. And the one thing I just noted is that he's not Force sensitive, and he did not get any dark side power, buffs or benefits from doing these things. It was just to prove his loyalty.
Yep. He did it because he's a petty bastard. He's not evil because he has the dark side in him. He's one of the few characters in Star Wars who's evil just because he's, a psychotic son of a gun.
Right. I agree. I think that's also kind of makes him even more evil in some ways. I also, thought from the story perspective that when Revan and the crew gets captured, he's a little bit of a taste of what is to come with Malak, and builds up Malak, because he even says that, oh, my torture methods are considered merciful or soft by the standards of the Sith. And you have no idea what Malak is capable of. Like, he's going to be so much worse than me. And so I do think that story-wise, video game-wise, he helps build up the main villain of that game.
But I'll actually make a weird argument. But then we find that Malak, in some ways, is not entirely worst in his torture methods to Bastila. because he wasn't trying to torture her, really. He was trying to convert her.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's more of the idea of Malik. It's not necessarily like you're right. I agree with you, but I feel that the idea in your head that's what's to come is kind of makes him a little scarier, or seem a little scarier. Don't know if that makes any sense.
It, it does make sense. Malik's probably the next villain we should discuss.
Yeah, let's talk about Malik.
All right, you go first.
Well, in terms of his origin, he was just really he kind of was recruited right by Revan,
Yep.
and he became one of Revan's followers, and so he followed him into the Mandalorian Wars. And I think he's a little bit sad because I think he would have followed Revan no matter what he did, and the fact that Revan decided to be seduced by the dark side, Malik
And
was
it's
going to
even,
follow him that way.
and it's okay. I'll say now on the female Revan side, he was clearly in love with her. If you go that route, which adds an element of
That's really
tragedy.
sad.
But the other problem is Malik was someone who, remember, the first one to join Revan wasn't simply Malik. There was another person who joined at the same time, Exile. And the difference was that Exile was someone who made everything, like everything that Revan and Malik struggled with, Exile made it look easy. And on top of that, you have Revan, who really was not a very, like, it didn't take long for Revan to start giving in and start drowning in the dark side. And Malik was someone who seems to have resisted a bit longer, but soon gave in and fell hard into the dark side. And he's someone who, remember, like, one of the lines of dialogue you can go down has him saying, like, what would have happened had I been captured? Like, you were the one who dragged me down this path. I didn't originally want it. So, like, and you can kind of redeem him, like, before he dies. So, like, depending on the options that you choose. So it's pretty interesting there. There was still a bit of good in Malik. Not like Saul Karif. Malik was not as evil as his front man in a lot of ways. And he did give into the dark side with the Starforge, but we got to bear in mind Revan started all. It all goes back to Revan. And Malik also got part of his jaw torn off by her, which, that's not really a nice thing to do. So when you consider that Revan is the most likely suspect to have torn off his jaw, like, how do I put it? Him betraying Revan is completely legitimate and moral from a certain perspective. He had every reason to want to betray Revan because Revan was clearly not being very nice to him. And Malik did outfox Revan there. But in the Mandalorian Wars, Malik was someone whom was loyal to a fault. And like you pointed out, it was the same mentality that dragged down Atten Rand. He was loyal. That's all. But eventually the loyalty became corrupted. And given that, you can perhaps get him to admit he wishes he could have turned away from the dark side for your sake. No, because you're Revan. He still remained loyal to Revan. And under this premise, I'd say it's interesting that the only character to have betrayed Revan willingly and to have actively betrayed him, or her, are Saul Karif and Bastila. Whereas Malik, on some level, still remained loyal and enthralled by Revan. And philosophically, Malik maintained the ideals of Revan. Thoughts, Dan?
Well, you pretty much summed it up. Because Malik got brutal, but There was a part of it that may have been a bit more notice me senpai eventually.
Yeah, it pretty much was.
I mean,
Yeah, he's very resentful.
He is. And he's how do I put it? He's a chump compared to the KOTOR 2 villains. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting that I'm going to posit a weird argument. Had it come to direct combat, the likes of Rook, Kavar, Zezkael, and Atris, or later Treya, could have killed Malik for breakfast. But the fact remains, they simply chose not. Well, they weren't able to corner him in battle, I should say. I should point that one out. Malik never allowed himself to be put in a situation where he would have to fight them, because he knew he would die. And I don't think it's a testament to his weakness, but a testament to his brains. That he realized, yeah, I'm not actually going to fight you solo. I'm not stupid. And
I'm crazy, just not stupid.
yeah, that's I think, isn't that a Joker line or something?
I think so.
Maybe.
No, it's I'm crazy, but messing with the IRS, I'm not that crazy. Yeah, that was the line. That was freaking hilarious. The fact that Joker fears the IRS, I just love that.
I mean, can you blame him?
Well, they are kind of assholes. But then you have, of course, the KOTOR 2 villains. Darth Sion is essentially a zombie.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they use Nihilus as the poster child for this, for KOTOR 2, but that the main the main two villains of the game are Treya, which is to say Atris, and Darth Sion.
But Nihilus had a good design, and people really liked it.
Well, yeah.
Like a really cool character design.
Yeah, he did.
And it's fairly simple. I think, if we could bridge the gap for a minute before we go full on into KOTOR 2, I think that Malik helped pave the way for KOTOR 2 to be more complex and interesting, because I think that he was a fairly straightforward villain. He had the look of a villain. He was very understandable to put on the box art. And I think that people approaching KOTOR could just be like, oh, look at that bad guy, kind of like Darth Vader with his face having that like shield over it, and having a bald head, like he looks evil. He's not very complex, or at least on its face is just a straightforward villain. But I think the villains of the triumvirate of KOTOR 2, and especially Darth Treya, like she's such a more complex character. And I think that they had success there and allowed them to be more daring with the writing.
Just to be clear, when I say Treya, I mean Atris. I don't mean Kreia.
Darth. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Atris or Darth. Isn't Darth? I thought Darth Treya was the alias of Kreia. Am I wrong?
Well, how do I put it? To clarify it, it works like this. Kreia was once a Jedi Master by the name of archaic, and then she's corrupted to the dark side. And becomes Treya. But then she was betrayed by Nihilus and Sion, who were her apprentices, and stripped of the Force by them. And she escaped them somehow and became Kreia. The thing is, she exists okay. A lot of Star Wars fans will say, oh, there's the Potentum view. You can use the gray side of the Force. There's no such thing as the gray side. You're either tempted by the light or the dark. You use one or the other, and you'll be pulled in either direction. It's not how you use powers, but it's the powers you do use that will define you and pull you towards its side. Of course, if you use Force Lightning, that's it. You're done. You're locked in for the dark side. You just can't help it. It's a drug. Whereas it takes a great force of will to break free of that to go to the light. Kreia and Exile exist outside the Force. They're basically a hunger in the Force, just like Nihilus and Sion. But where Nihilus and Sion are devouring it through the dark side, so to speak, Exile and Kreia, I would theorize, are devouring it from the opposite end. They're still, you know what I mean? You're still creating holes and gaping wounds in the Force. And this is why the Jedi perceive Exile to be, well, they look at him and they see
That's
the
why
depth of the
Kreia was so
Force.
obsessed with the exile.
Because he's essentially devouring the Force through the light. But the other thing is that the one who activated the mass shadow generator and thus tore a hole open in the Force was the Exile. So he is, in a lot of ways, the main character of this entire era, because he's the one who completely changed the nature of the Force for the era. He wasn't supposed to be a chosen one or something. He made Force bonds real quick, but I would argue he was... Now, Anakin Solo, for example, was someone who could heal the wounds in the Force. Exile was probably meant to be like that, but when he activated the mass shadow generator, he flipped to being the opposite and started, So arguably, in a weird way, Sion and Nihilus are... They had to force themselves to become like him. You know what I mean? They became that way through their own experiments and whatnot. And by just being near Malachor and letting it corrupt them. Exile, essentially, is the creator of Malachor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and... But Kreia had it... when you tear the Force away from someone... Now, first one to devise the technique was kind of Odon but he did not develop it so that you could do it permanently. It was just supposed to be a cage in which they cannot use the Force. Naomi Sunrider corrupted the technique in her anger and hatred. And then she did what Odon never would have wanted her to do. Took this dark side version, which is to say, you just cut someone off and that's it. They're traumatized. Usually they die, but sometimes they live. She passed it on to the Jedi Council. And, then you had Exile, who this was done to him by himself. He did it to himself after he used a mass shadow generator. He inflicted the punishment on himself on an instinctive level. But as for the villains,
Yeah.
Sion is a zombie. But he is utterly unstoppable. And I would argue he's way more of a threat than Nihilus.
But that's not the way that it was posed. At least maybe not. I feel like a lot of the game focused on Nihilus.
Well,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just feeling it's like the feeling.
Well, I always had the impression they focused more on Sion because he was the bigger threat. Because if Nihilus tried to feed off Sion, the same thing as what would happen when he tries to feed on Exile would happen. But the difference is, Nihilus, once you chop his head off, that's it. Sion just gets back up. You know what I mean? You can run Nihilus through and he's dead. But if you run Sion through, that's he's just pulling the sword out of his gut and going, is that all? But...
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about it a lot from the lens of Isis and from our last conversation. And that's why I was thinking about, you know what I mean? Because she's we have to stop him. He could be the end of the galaxy, which possibly was true.
Yeah.
But
okay.
he's easily defeated by the Exile. But Sion was also equally a threat, right? He just was a different kind of threat.
You summarized it perfectly. Nihilus is a bigger threat to the galaxy. Sion's more of a personal threat who's a bigger threat on that level. Is what I mean.
100%. Yeah, he's just going to kill hundreds or plow through Jedi in combat. He cannot be... they just... he'll just regenerate. He'll resurrect himself.
Yeah, whereas Nihilus will just drain an entire bloody planet and just... like that. So, the dude is a macro threat. Treya, for her part, and when I say that, once again, I'll repeat, Atris. But Treya, who's on Telos 4, is a much more sinister threat. She is manipulative, she is cruel, but what's interesting about her is she's a much more feminine threat. What I mean by that is her motivations are pure jealousy and possessiveness, but her reasons for turning on other Jedi and whatnot are petty, and she has been manipulating things for some time. Because remember, Zez-Kyle and others said, wasn't she supposed to be on KOTOR? But she knew that Nihilus was coming. And I think it was implied like she drew him there and then fled or something. She's the sort of petty cunt who would do that. She's in love with being the last of the Jedi. But she's utterly vindictive, spiteful, selfish. But the way she's not going to challenge you openly. She's going to challenge, like she basically uses Nihilus almost like an attack dog. You know what I mean? Manipulates things from the shadows, and she acts self-righteous and whatnot. In a lot of ways, she has all the worst flaws that a woman can have. She's basically Star Wars' answer to feminism. And that's where, arguably, her and Kreia are total opposites in morality, methods, and intent. And, like, we gotta bear in mind, in a galaxy where Darth Vader's just trying to smash stuff because he's angry, Sion just wants to get vengeance upon Kreia by slaughtering the son she adopted because he's jealous of him for being her surrogate son. But also, he hates the Jedi just on principle because he feels they disappointed him and they betrayed him or let him down on some level. Nihilus just wants to feed his inner hunger and is manipulating events and just going to wherever the Force is strongest. So you have Sion, who is kind of like Vader in this era. You know, he's just breaking stuff. He's angry. It's a tantrum. But you can kind of understand it. Palpatine wants to conquer and keep the galaxy. Nihilus wants to devour the galaxy and basically become a god. Malak wants to rule as basically emperor. Atris wants to get even with the guy who would not, the guy who friend-zoned her. It's like, it's the most petty, vindictive motivation. Like, on some level, I can understand Sion. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand his motivation. It comes from the heart, a failure of his own feelings. Atris, it's just because she's horny. Like, it is so pathetic.
He dumped me. So I'm going to destroy everything he holds dear.
I'm going to destroy the entire galaxy. He dumped me.
He dumped me. Maybe then he'll like me.
Kind of. Yeah, and I like how Kreia is just like, you're just clinging to titles, to words. You know, you're like a child with a security blanket. Like, Kreia is just like, for someone who's supposed to be Darth Treya, you're my successor here. You're such a disappointment. And this cuts to the difference between Kreia and her. Because we also got to bear in mind, Atris usurped RNK's role as Jedi Archivist. She betrayed RNK and took her daughter from her. And then, Atris betrayed the Jedi Exile. Then Atris betrayed the Jedi Council. And then Atris betrayed the Jedi. But then she has the temerity to say, well, he betrayed me. Everyone betrayed me. No, you betrayed everyone else. They never turned on Atris. So as Darth Treya, she's ultimately someone who, Darth Treya, there must always be a Treya, someone who betrays and in turn carries with them the knowledge, right? And is betrayed and then carries with them the knowledge of betrayal. Treya was only betrayed in her head. She's like a weird femcel or something who, I don't know, perceived that her crush, Bieber got with someone else, so I gotta, she gets petty over it. It's just so weird to me. I don't get it. And
I think that femcel reference actually really works. Because I feel like she's just become shattered. Like, she gets so triggered by something happening that it just completely warps her worldview, and she's like she wants to assault the world now because of it. Like, she wants to inflict pain.
Yeah. I find it also funny that she spent like her entire life basically stalking the Exile, or at least his entire time at the Jedi Order doing that. And throughout the game, she wants to keep tabs on him. She's basically stalking him and obsessing about him. And he gets with the girl she stole away from R&K. You know what I mean? if you go like light side male, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just the most hilarious ever. She inadvertently introduced him to his lover.
And there's also
There's some poetic irony there.
there's also another matter.
Hmm?
She's getting old. She wants this young man, and if he doesn't return her feelings, then it'd be, and her getting over it, it would mean acknowledging she's over the hill.
Fair. She is probably around 40. So like, yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Nihilus is someone a little harder to determine the motivation of. It's just hunger. And we don't know who he was before he became Darth Nihilus. We only know that him and Scion were apprentices of Kreia during her Darth Treya days. That's all we know. But he's classic Dark Lord. He's there to kick some ass, take some names, and just look good while doing it. And then get his butt kicked and ultimately humiliated.
Yeah, Nihilus has a gaping, like you said, a gaping wound in the Force, and I think the only thing that makes the pain go away is just consuming the Force, the Force vitality from any living thing. That's the only thing that can keep him going, like maybe from not dying, but also from like easing his suffering. So I feel like that is part of it, which is kind of interesting to contrast to Scion, whose his entire existence is about pain.
Yeah, and there were, like, we gotta bear in mind, they made it clear that Treya's entire existence is about betrayal and being petty. Scion's entire existence is about pain. Nihilus is about hunger. Basically, you have gluttony, you have, I guess, masochism, but really wrath with Scion. And you have Treya, which in a weird way is lust. So they represent like three different sins of the, cardinal sins or whatever, that were traditionally feared by Christendom. And on some level, I find Treya just the most humorous, even as I think she's the most petty and then in some ways not as funny. Like she's funny, but not funny in a weird way. At the time, I didn't really get her. Like I was like, okay, I get it, but on some level, it was like, you think, are women really like that? It doesn't seem like it. But when you get older, you're like, oh yeah, there's an entire breed of women who are like that. Yeah. Not all, just there's an entire breed of them. And you go, oh, wonderful. But just as you meet women like that, you'll also meet women who are probably more like Kreia or Mission, or, you know what I mean? Like, you can't paint with too broad a brush. But when it comes to Scion, I always liked his motivation. There's petty and and it's personal, but there's also, like, bear in mind, he claims that Kreia betrayed him because she lost interest in him. And it's fascinating because Scion, on some level, was obsessed with her before. What?
I said it's brutal for someone to lose interest in you like that.
Well, yeah. But I wonder what kind of interest he had in her because, she gets into her own backstory. She tells her own backstory. But the thing is, Scion is someone who was recruited by her clearly when he was probably in his 20s or something. And he was a star pupil of hers. He was obviously more powerful than Revan. And I would argue, in some ways, he was a lot more dangerous a fighter as well. Like, the dude could beat Revan in any fight. But Revan was smarter. And Revan clearly intrigued
Yeah,
Kreia
Revan probably
unlo-
would not ever have found himself in a fight with Scion
I disagree. Sion would have
directly.
cornered. No, Sion was an assassin. He could corner someone. Remember, he's slippery.
Oh, so he would have like he would have Scion would have found a way to
Well,
fight
it's
him,
like-
even if Revan didn't want to.
Yeah, because you got to bear in mind, he corners Kreia. He corners, like, he keeps, he shows up on Korriban. Like, this guy is trained to basically track someone down and, corner them. And he's basically the Terminator. He's never going to stop. He's going to keep on pursuing. But
He is like the
remember,
Terminator.
But he wasn't able to find Revan. So that should tell you how intelligent Revan is and how well she covered her own tracks. But
Do you
that's
think
where-
do you think that Scion is more creepy, or sorry, I'm just curious. Like, I feel like, do you think Nihilus or Scion
Scion.
is creepier? So I feel like the way you think Scion is creepier, I kind of agree. Although they both are pretty creepy.
yeah. Actually, I'll also say Treya, just because she's a cat lady who's upset, who has a
Yeah.
who's seriously stalking. Like she personal boundaries lady.
It's like the guy isn't interested in your.
He's willing to be friends, but just friends. It's your
He's-
foster daughter he's into.
I mean, he's not into crusty. Into older women.
Yeah, because otherwise he'd have gone for Kreia. But I'm joking there. But
Yeah, it's
The-
funny to to think about how getting rejected is just going to change a person's entire like life view on everything, and change like all of their everything they do in life is based off of that rejection. And if you're someone that's just a normal everyday person, maybe you become resentful, maybe you are just angry, and maybe you get depressed. But if you're someone who has a lot of power, then you could try to shape
that's-
the entire world, or
well,
it's kind of like Anakin. Anakin is, these powerful people, they have personal issues and then they inflict it upon the world.
well, yeah, and the trouble with Anakin was, on some level, he wasn't satisfied by Padme. So he's trying to overcompensate. And he's also then got that prophecy of her dying that's haunting him and terrifying him. So,
And
But
his
with
mother
some-
too,
yeah.
which are kind of intertwined, like his mommy issues, like his inability to save
got
her
daddy
is
issues.
tied in with his inability to save Padme, and daddy issues. Yes.
Yeah, his daddy issues with Obi-Wan. And the fact that, like I said, I've read episode 3.
Right.
the
And that was
novel.
probably the least do you think that was probably that's it's kind of his healthiest relationship is with Obi-Wan, if I had to,
Yeah,
right?
it
I mean,
was.
obviously it came to a head, but at its
But-
best.
But yeah, and remember, in episode 3, the novel, Anakin keeps thinking, "Oh, Obi-Wan's going to approve of me slaughtering the Jedi in the temple. He's, he'll come back, he'll make it all better, and we're going to rule the galaxy together as father and son." After I, of course, kill Palpatine. Like, this is his actual train
It's
of
so
thought. It's
twisted.
like, yeah, he's utterly gone bonkers, and like, so when he arrives on Mustafar, it's like, he freaks out on Padme, but it's when Obi-Wan's like, "Are you freaking crazy? I'm not joining you." That internally Anakin completely shatters. He's like, "You're not?" Like, it's like the thought never occurred to him. Obi-Wan would not.
Yeah, I did this all for you. What are you talking about? This is all about
Yeah.
you. Like,
I know if Obi-Wan, like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Why would I want to destroy essentially my family?
uh,
Seems
Be-
like a good idea at the time.
yeah. But with Scion, interestingly, he betrayed Kreia. Or I should say Darth Treya. He betrayed her. Now, we have to ask ourselves, in order to get to that, how did it, he obviously was chosen by her, became her apprentice, she corrupted him to the dark side, but then there's several things that happened that caused him to come to loathe her and regard her as weak. The first thing was that she started questioning the dark side. She was questioning the purpose of the Sith. And who was in control, the dark side or the Sith Lord? Because the Sith will say, "I'm in control." The problem with Kreia was she was always too smart for her own good. So she started examining the Force, and she has all these great powers of prophecy that could see 4,000 years into the future. So she's basically looking at this and saying, I don't think we're in control here. And this is ultimately where Treya then goes, there's a problem. You know, like, we're supposed to be the ones using the power, but the power is controlling us. How do we break free and master it without it completely breaking us? Yes, Sion and Nihilus have become hungers in the Force. But are they enough to kill the Force? And so, you know, she's asking, because they're feeding themselves. They're growing more powerful at the Force's expense. And she's realizing that they're evil. They're pure monsters. But, you know, she's still trying to figure out how to maneuver around this. Like, she's still trying to figure out how to kill the Force without creating something worse than it. But on the other hand...
But then it's too late, right? Because,
yeah,
at least for the moment, because then she gets the crap beaten out of her.
More than that.
By her
she says
apprentices.
She suffered indignities. They basically tortured her.
Right. So is that... Yeah. Yeah. She suffered indignities. Yeah. So it was a little bit... So it sounds like you're saying, like, while she was trying to take the next logical leap in her mind, it was like her you know, the less... I guess they were technically... It was a triumvirate. Were they actually apprentices? Or were they other...
They were apprentices.
Lower masters? I don't know. You tell...
They were
apprentices.
They were her
okay.
apprentices.
But they were still part of a...
Lower masters. They were lower masters
right.
and apprentices.
And it was part of a...
Time.
They called it the triumvirate. So it was like not like dissimilar of like a
disagree.
one master, one apprentice.
That's mere Jedi propaganda and Sith propaganda. It's Jedi and Sith propaganda.
Oh, the rule of two?
Yeah, well, sort of. Here's what I'll explain. The Sith would say triumvirate because they hate Kreia. Remember, the Sith hate Kreia. The Jedi hate Kreia. So, you know, you have this propaganda, Sith triumvirate. In reality, it was one master and two apprentices. But it wasn't like Bane's gay order. It was different. Treya clearly had the mastery over the other two.
Why do you call it Bane's gay order?
Well, it is a little because it's just we'll destroy the Jedi by weakening ourselves. And until we're ready to take over through the government and whatnot. Basically, we're going to have the Republic do our dirty work again for us. But Treya was looking not at the Republic or at the Empire. She was looking at the Force. What is it? How does it operate? She was asking bigger questions. And, you know, it was in her research that she got interrupted and beaten up and usurped. And I'd argue after that, we get the Sith triumvirate. We get Darth Treya, that is to say Atris, Nihilus, and Sion operating in kind of tandem with each other. The real Sith triumvirate is those three. Kreia exists outside of it.
Do you think of her as a Machiavellian?
No. She's too kind and too noble for that.
But what about her trying to think beyond the dogma? I mean, isn't that Machiavellian trying to see beyond...
Machiavelli's looking at things from a political lens. That things are...
Right.
Like, it's better to be feared than hated. Like, you don't want to be hated by a people. It's like ruling a country. That's what his Prince book is about. It's a great book, but I don't think...
It's better to be feared if you can't be loved. If you can't be loved, then it's better to be feared.
Yeah. But Kreia's not operating like she's trying to take over a country. She's operating more like she's at war with the Force. And she's ultimately a tragic figure. But Sion and Nihilus, well, like I said, they take over, they rape her, and they imprison her. But she escapes. How she escaped, don't know. And I don't think it's very important in the grand scheme of things. It's only important that she escaped. And then she wandered the galaxy broken and shattered and without the Force. And we also have to bear in mind, they were the second apprentices who betrayed her. We got to bear in mind, R&K left to join the Mandalorian Wars because Usanus, her lover, was fighting in the Mandalorian Wars. That was Kreia's lover. Do you know who kills Usanus? Revan. Revan slew the lover of Revan's first master. R&K. So R&K, Kreia, trained Revan, and then when Revan turned to the dark side, most Darksiders have a sacrifice. The sacrifice must have been Usanus or something. I don't know. But Revan slaughtered him, and bear in mind how Obi-Wan felt when he saw the Jedi Order slaughtered by Anakin. How do you think R&K took the loss of the man she loved at the hands of her favorite apprentice? Because she trained many by then. What would that have done to a person? That was the ultimate betrayal. And this was the apprentice R&K believed in and loved. That was her child. And so she didn't, that's what I think drove her to the dark side. The rage and the hatred and the pain of it. But, as she, as the years passed, she kind of overcame her grief and began to study the Force. So, and Sion, we have to bear in mind, always hoped for some sort of affection from her. So there's that weird, twisted hope for for a mother-son bond. And we also have to bear in mind, Sion is a shadow to Exile, just as Nihilus is. Just as Traya is. And we also have to bear in mind that there's one trait about the Exile that that not even Revan had. And that, that's very noticeable. Exile never betrayed anyone. So isn't it interesting that Kreia comes to love the person who never betrayed anyone? Who kept taking every betrayal on his chin. In a way, he's a polar opposite to Kreia. So I think the reason she loves Exile is because, you know what I mean? He's the opposite of her. And, she can't help but love him for that, for being the person she's not. But the thing is, Sion is jealous because, Kreia loves Exile like a son. And so, you have that weird... It's a different kind of jealousy. It's much more understandable. But Sion is ultimately also a psychotic Dark Lord of the Sith. So, of course, it's enhanced and whatnot. And he's like Vader. It just becomes utterly twisted. But, except he's way more powerful than Vader. That's clear. But Nihilus is just... He's the one who hungers and hungers. And in a weird way, I'll actually say he's a shadow of Exile in that he hungers for... Exile hungers for love. You know what I mean? When you play the game, it's very clear. The Exile is someone who's been broken and in a way atomized and divorced from every human being, every person, every relationship he has. And while he has very special relationships with the Ebon Hawk crew, it's interesting that the relationship he hungers for the most, in a weird way, is Kreia. But Nihilus has a hunger he can't satiate. Exile tries to satiate it with his bond with his friends and Kreia, his mommy figure, while Nihilus tries to fill it up with just human life. There's something just very Aztec about Nihilus.
Yeah. You put that so well. And I was wondering, I kind of want to tie together something because before we got on, hopped on, and you've been helping me get there. I think we've already touched on it, but I just want to kind of recap. I was thinking to myself, how do these villains rhyme? Traya, Darth Traya, Darth Sion, Darth Nihilus. And I think you started to, I think both of us a little bit. It's Sion is that he's the physical threat. He's in your face. He's going to punch you in the gut. He could kill you. And also he doesn't die. And Darth Nihilus is kind of the metaphysical threat where it's more of it's more of a primitive Aztec being scared of the weather or being scared of the world. And it's he's a religious almost force.
Well,
and then
bear in mind,
Traya
he's
is,
himself on.
yeah.
Oh, go.
And then I was going to say that Traya is kind of if you go at the archetype of the village woman who are often the religious female elder that's revered for their knowledge and having being the keeper of the lore, but she's in your head. It's also a feminine archetype. It's like you said, it's it's something that really resonated with me is when you said that she's a very feminine character. And Scion, one of the reasons why he
Wait,
wanted to
wait.
kill her was because he says that you're always in my head. I cannot get your words out of my head. And it started to just eat him up, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but there's also another thing about that separates Scion from Nihilus and Treya. Treya and Nihilus hide away from the galaxy. What's interesting is Treya hides away with behind others and in a hidden place on Telos 4 because she's scared of the galaxy. Nihilus hides from the galaxy because he's scared of it on some level, but in a bloody freaking phantom ship from hell that's like the Black Pearl of Star Wars and is just like got more firepower than any other ship will have in that for a good couple of centuries. They're both afraid, but Nihilus did something much more masculine. It's like, oh, well, I'm afraid of the galaxy. I'm just going to hide on this freaking death ship. But it's not that I'm saying he's somehow, it makes him better. No, actually, it makes him kind of worse in some ways. But
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is also that Nihilus can't.
And I keep my sexy slave. I send her out to go find my enemy for me. Sorry, and I'm saying that kind of purposely because you and I disagree about her being sexy. You prefer handmaiden, right? Or wait, no. You prefer
Mira.
Mira. Yeah, Mira's your favorite.
Yeah.
I always chose vices because I'm sick.
It's fine.
I'm twisted.
Yeah, well, you and Nihilus are 1 for 1 then with each other.
Yeah.
I'd probably be, I don't know, probably Malik or something.
But then you take you take the veil off of her face, and then you're like, oh no, damn it, she's ugly. Oh God.
Well, it's not that Vice is
But no,
ugly,
you don't
it's
take
just
off. That's
she
why
has
you
no
never take off the veil. Yeah, that's true. She has no eyeballs. Just
Cole-
I don't like to think about that part.
Cole the King from Robert E. Howard's stories and from the Call the Conqueror movie learned that lesson well. I don't know if you ever saw the
never
Kevin
lift the
Sorbo
veil. No,
Well, yeah, it's because
I
he
don't think
lifted
I
the
did.
veil off a villainess and she enchanted him.
Ah,
So it completely screwed him over.
yeah. Well, these are the villains. These are the villains of Knights of the Old Republic. I think pretty fascinating.
Yeah, they are. And in a lot of ways, I really like Vader and Palpatine, but I kind of think these villains are collectively like kind of like the second best behind Ragnos. And I kind of think that it just seems to me like they are probably the most legitimate threat we've seen in Star Wars after Ragnos, of course, to an extent, but in some ways more than him because they're a hunger in the Force. They're actively destroying it. Not Trey, of course, but Nihilus and Scion are. And they're doing so just because they are greedy and evil. And it's something that is quite interesting.
It's
because
also not. Oh yeah, please go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's not like a lot of the modern Star Wars is, and this is not to say that it's wrong because that was, I believe, in George's mind was the conflict between democracy and dictatorship, or in some ways I think that's at the heart of or liberalism versus fascism or whatever you want to call it. Like I think that's still a concept that George it really wanted to just like he was interested in that, and that's how I think the original trilogy and the prequels were, they investigated those ideas, but this doesn't really do that. And I think it's still very much Star Wars, but I think it's more on the metaphysical or spiritual angle. or philosophical lens rather than just going down that path and like trying to tie it in with modern events, which a lot of Star Wars does. And I'm not trying to get into a whole political talk and say, or to discuss how bad current Star Wars is or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think it's just unique in how it frames the story, not in that lens.
Okay. They
But yeah,
they do
anything
offer
else
a certain
from you?
I was going to say they do offer a certain insight into Star Wars from a different lens, and it's
Right.
And what I also find is that it's interesting having like a Dark Lady, for example, in the midst, because like the original Star Wars never had one except for Tavion from the Jedi Knight series, which Tavion was interesting, but she was petty and spiteful, but she was likable in a different way than Treya Atris. Whereas outside that, there's no female villains. And
that's a good point.
And as for Scion, like, there's a quality to him that's different from Vader. In a lot of ways, he seems smarter when it comes to, like, how do I put it? Vader doesn't really have philosophical debates with people. He just smashes them. Scion actually has a philosophical debate with Exile and Korriban, and argues about how Krea's not worth it, not worth clinging to, and tries to turn the Exile against Krea. He actively debates with the Exile.
Yeah.
He actively wants to have a conversation. Also on Malachor. Like, the dude wants to talk. He hates you. He's jealous of you. But he kind of wants to understand you on some level. And at the same time, Scion also has the creepiest scene in all of KOTOR 2. Which is at the beginning when the ship, empty... excuse me. Of all life, drifts into the... near the... spice mine.
And like Nihilus has no remnants of humanity left.
Yeah.
Sorry, what scene is that?
Scene I'm referring to? The KOTOR 2 scene at the beginning when the ship drifts in and you have the entire crew dead and you have... Yeah, I love that scene.
That was awesome. It was really cool.
But Nihilus, there's nothing left
like,
of it. Even
this is going to be different. This is going to be a different KOTOR. Like the first one, we were pulling a little bit of our punches. We just wanted to make sure people knew that we weren't going to, do anything too crazy with Star Wars. And then KOTOR 2, they're like, we're going to go for it.
Well, with KOTOR 2, they wanted to do basically a horror sci-fi thing. I would argue KOTOR 2 is a horror story, and it's really good.
It's a really good horror story.
Oh, yeah. But it took the stakes and elevated them. KOTOR 1, it's a really good game. I like it. But it's a 1-for-1 for episode 4, 5, and 6. I thoroughly enjoyed it, though. I love it. But KOTOR 2 I love a lot more for being creative and original. And
it does have like the super weapon at the end of it, It's like a lot of KOTOR 1 is about a super weapon, which is the Starforge or whatever.
Now I will
which
actually defend the
Death Star.
I think the Starforge is more dangerous than the Death Star.
The Starforge is cool, man. I like it. I thought it was fun to have these breadcrumbs left by this, the Revan and Malik, and then you're basically following your own footsteps to pick up those pieces and learn along the way, get your memories back. And then it's like, how deep does this thing go? It goes so deep. Like the history behind all of this the lore behind this is so rich.
And the thing is that KOTOR 1 had hints of horror, but never actually the thing is the Starforge is sentient.
The Manan.
Yeah, to an extent.
The Manan, because like they kind of turned into zombies for a little bit, and
oh yeah.
The Rakatans, and they're like, they get poisoned and then they just go crazy, and then all the voice actors just do such a great job because all the ones that all the people that you talk to, You ask them like, what happened here? What's going on? They're just completely delirious. They're insane. And they're like, they just started killing us and they started devouring us. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm trying to help you. Like, I can get you out of there. Like, no, don't come near me. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, they're so scarred from this.
But then when you look at KOTOR 2, you're like, oh yeah, no survivors means something.
A ghost ship. Literally a ghost ship.
Yeah, I love it. And I just love how they do it very slow. Like, you know, you got the interior and you're like, the hell hit these guys? And you just have Sion kneeling there. It's like, and I love
it was legitimately scary.
Yeah, and I love the exploration of the ship, how you find the recording and he smashes out of the Kolto tank. And he's like, where is the exit?
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah. That entire game was awesome. Oh, man. They should not
So what
have
do you think of this remake that's coming up?
I don't know if it is coming out, but...
Well, we don't know if it is, but they released concept art. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, I would like to just know if it's coming out. I mean, I wouldn't... If it's just like renewed graphics and like modern... Like... You know, if it's just like modernized gameplay with the original story, I would love that, you know?
Just think, how do I put it?
What about you? Would you be interested in playing it?
No. I'm not much of a gamer, and I'm not really interested in remake games.
Nah.
Like, I don't mind the updated version, like just the updated art for the character art for Suikoden 1 that's been released on Steam. Like, I plan to get that when the price is cheaper. But I'm not interested really in remakes and most updates and whatnot. Especially as I don't think these companies can do it right. And I would prefer they put the money into making not a remake of KOTOR, but instead kind of a... I would prefer that they... Okay, how do I say it? Remove from continuity everything they did with the sequel stuff and all the Disney era stuff, and instead make a video game that's basically a sequel to Jedi Academy that continues with the actual Star Wars continuity. And you know what I mean? Like, where you get to maybe switch between playing Jaden, Rosh, Kyle, and Luke. And, you know, you have Han around, you have Leia. Oh, I also play as Leia. I'd love that. Because she's now a Jedi. So just, like, you know what I mean? Like, where you can explore the galaxy, even if it's in KOTOR format, or let's say in non-KOTOR format, like Jedi Academy did. That's what I prefer. Like, a game which actually advances the story. But, like...
Yeah, I do get what you mean.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm thinking. But I just also think the KOTOR
I gotta have my
story...
slop, you know. I gotta have my KOTOR slop. Just give it back to me.
Oh, that's okay.
You know,
I just think that if we had to have you know, like, make another KOTOR style game, why not just set it in the new Sith Wars? There's 1,000 years to cover.
When does that happen? After
that
compared
happens,
to the...
Well, that happens
Mandalorian
from
Wars.
2,000 years after KOTOR. Like, it starts 2,000 years before Luke's time, and it ends 1,000 years before Luke's time.
What they also need to do is get rid of the Revan book. I mean, okay, I like it because it's just a good book, but in terms of the continuity, I really hated it because it just like disregards the video game. It's just like, none of that really happened, or like a lot of it didn't. KOTOR 2 never happened. I'm like, what? This is not okay. You wrote the video game story. You wrote the lore, and now you're the same guy as you're the author who's writing this. It's called Star Wars. The problem is it's called Star Wars: The Old Republic, not Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, which is a rebranding. And then they wanted to create a new Revan continuity, which like loosely follows Knights of the Old Republic, completely disregards 2 as it seems, and washes over. They literally wash over Nihilus and Sion. It's like they didn't exist. They just talk about her followers, and I was like, what? I didn't realize that. I thought for a while that they were just like kind of breezing over it. But I guess it's a retcon, which it's too bad. It could have been.
It's because
I was looking for I wish. Yeah.
I'll actually say it was trash because it retcons out KOTOR 2. And the trouble with that is KOTOR 2 was the best part of the KOTOR era. But there's a lot of people who liked it because they didn't like someone else being the main character than Revan. Because Revan became a self-insert at some point. And you don't want your self-insert character to, I guess, get usurped. But the other...
That's dumb. Because it's even better if there's two great characters.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're both different. I mean, the Exile's different than the Revan. Like, Revan's like an anti-hero. Exile's like a hero. I don't know. I know it's complicated.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair perspective. Although I always thought of Revan as just depends on what period in Revan's life.
Depends on which Revan.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I said that. It's like, which Revan are we talking about? Darth Revan before they were, Revan after the thing. So yeah, I had to get that off my chest just because I like the book in terms of the like some of the story, but I just don't like that it really robs us of us fans of the original work.
Any thoughts, Dan?
But Dan.
It's honestly, I'm unlikely to play a new KOTOR game. I may be the gamer in the family, but I doubt it'll keep my attention.
Why?
First off, it's the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Second off, I think I've never really jived with all of the Star Wars games. There's a couple of good ones, like
Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2. But overall, I suppose that my attention would be elsewhere. I think my interest in Star Wars has also been burned over the years of
just the there's the whole Disney stuff, and then there's the culture war.
Oh yeah, it's
not to mention, like, if we're being honest, KOTOR 2 ended the KOTOR era. And Star Wars Episode 3 ended the movie period for Star Wars for us. After that, it's like, okay, it's over. And Jedi Academy closes out the sequel period for originally, like, before Disney retcon stuff. So it was kind of like all three major eras of stories have been told. It's over. It's finished. We had a great ending.
Exactly.
3 endings. We had 3 freaking endings, right, Dan?
Yeah, it's like... Why? Because, and for all I know, there might be a good story. I mean, I must confess that I have played and beat a game like Hogwarts Academy, Hogwarts Legacy. For all I know, I might enjoy it, but I don't think I'll be gung ho into playing such a new KOTOR game.
If I may, let's just pretend for a minute. If, hypothetically, it was just exactly the game, all of the same story, they just made it a little more modernized for our modern consoles and for the modern audience, which is going to expect a different streamlining of gameplay, would you be interested in that? Hypothetically speaking,
that would actually be tempting. I'd have to get
because
back
that's
to
what
you
I'm
on
saying.
that.
When I'm saying that I'm excited about it, that's what I'm expecting. If they don't deliver what we're expecting, then that's, I can find out like through reviews. But on the positive side is if this game hypothetically does even come out, which it probably won't, but if it did and it's sold really well, maybe that they would take that as a sign that, like, hey, people like this stuff. They don't like what you're currently making, and you need to make more stuff like that.
And maybe that is the case.
Probably not, but you can only hope. But I'm just, I'm a hopeful Star Wars fan. I have to be hopeful. That's what my podcast is about. It's about Star Wars. I'm anytime something new comes out, I give it a shot, and then I tell people honestly if I like it or not. But for you
That's
guys,
fair.
it's you have so many different properties that you explore, and you even write your own stuff. So it's like you could choose anything. It doesn't always have to be the newest Star Wars thing, right?
Yeah, and we don't really watch the new stuff. We're dissatisfied by it, but like we're not engaged in the rage over it because it's just I don't get it.
Well, that's
We're
not what
we're
this is.
done.
To me, that's not what this is about. Like, if you want to discuss the meta and why other fans are bad, like, go and do that on X. You know? Like, that's what
Yeah.
that's for. It's dumb. Those people are doing it because they just want to have a pseudo political debate. They want to have a pseudo political debate within Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. It's and that stuff's not interesting anymore. It's just yeah, like I'm peeling ever more away from politics and wanting to focus more and more on writing and on trying to write like lit criticism, history, philosophy stuff. That's way more interesting than any politics.
I agree. Stay rooted in history, and I think you'll learn a lot more. Because people think that only things matter are things that happened in the last 20, 30 years, which is really
No.
stupid. It's not, it's just not true. And they would probably understand the current world they live in if they actually knew more about the world that happened before they were alive. That's not even asking a lot. Like even some people don't. It's like, okay, yeah, the world didn't start in 1975. Sorry, a lot of stuff happened before that kind of inform you. But anywho, this has been a great Star Wars discussion about Knights of the Old Republic. I'm glad that we all, I mean, whatever we have our differences, we all like KOTOR. We all like the villains from this, especially from KOTOR 2. But I just wanted to say thanks again, brothers Corinne, Joe, and Dan. You guys are awesome. I love talking to you guys. So I hope that you will come back again to talk more Star Wars, or maybe I could be found on your platform talking about another property, another franchise,
Sure.
another series. So
Dun,
I'm
dun,
down to do that.
dun.
Dun dun dun. But this has been Star Wars Loose Cannon. Check us out on Substack. Check out the Brothers Crin on Substack. Is there anything that people should come check out in specific, like anything new on the horizon that you want to tell people about?
Um, Not really. We're gonna be writing some horror essays for next month. Those are
The
always popular.
audiobook. The audiobook is coming out. Yours truly, I will be one of the characters.
Oh
I will be
yeah,
voice acting one of the characters.
yeah. That's actually on YouTube already. Yeah, you play Bardrock, the or Diarmat Bar of Bardrock, who's a bit of a sleazy little weasel, which is weird because your voice doesn't sound like
My
that.
voice did not match. I sounded like Anakin.
Yeah, and it's like this is so weird. Um, but we're gonna get you back in for another character role, because it's just you know one that's gonna be more fitting.
To my stature.
Yeah, pretty much.
To my
As-
station. To my station.
yeah, pretty much because um, you did a good job. It's just the role of villain didn't match your voice, so it's like yeah.
That's so funny. I find that so funny when you told me that. But anyways, I won't keep you any longer. I know you guys gotta go, so you guys take it easy. All right, we'll see you soon.
Okay. See ya.
All right, see you guys.